What is up, people, and welcome back to another edition of the Lucrative MMA Betting Podcast. My name is James Blissett, professional sports bettor and founder of Lucrative MMA, which is my handicapping service where I help people make money from betting on MMA. And today, I'm going to try and help you make some money from this PFL Championship 2022 card. Big card, biggest night in MMA, as the PFL likes to say. Obviously, we know that's not really the case, but it's definitely the richest night in MMA, which is something the PFL also like to say because they give out $1 million to any winner of their tournament. And I think they've got like 4, 5, or even 6 tournament finales this weekend. So they're going to be giving out $4, $5, or $6 million. I'm going to break down the full card for you. We got 12 fights on this card. I'm going to break down every single fight. Going to go into detail on the specific matchups. I'm going to try and help you make some money from this card. As always, if you want all of my picks, my official betting tips, just go to the links in bio. But we'll break this card down. Thanks, everyone, for being here. We've got a few people in the chat already. So if you are in the chat, please say hello. This can be an interactive live stream. You know, sometimes I like to get the fights just done quickly. And sometimes I like to go back and forth with the chat. I'm feeling like we can go back and forth with the chat today. You know, I like some engagement. So if you got any questions about anything I say or anything about sports betting in general, please let me know. You know, I wasn't going to do any more breakdowns, any more full card breakdowns anyway. I did say that last time out. And I said, if you do want me to continue doing the full card breakdowns, please comment. And I got about 20 comments from people on YouTube. Everybody's saying they want me to continue doing the full card breakdowns. I got a lot of DMs, people saying they want me to continue doing full card breakdowns, and a lot of people liking the comments on YouTube as well. So I'm still undecided. You know, they're getting a bit boring for me now, you know, to be completely honest. I started doing these breakdowns for these UFC, these MMA, Bellator matchups, like about 3 years ago now. And, you know, at the time, not many people were doing them. So it was quite exciting. It was quite new for me. But I'm getting kind of bored of doing the same thing every single week. There's so many people out there on YouTube now putting out full card breakdowns. I feel like it's getting a little bit monotonous. There's so much content out there now. And I've started to put out more gambling-related content, not only MMA-related content, not only breaking down this fight, this is who's going to win this fight this weekend, but also putting out content to help you be a better sports bettor. From someone who's been in the industry for 10 years, over 10 years myself, there's a lot of fake content out there. There's a lot of content people know how to break down a fight, right? But there's not a lot of content people know how to break down gambling and how to actually gamble long term, right? Not over 6 months or 1 year, but actually long term. So I've started to put out a lot of content around that now because I like to be innovative, right? That's the type of person I am. As I said, when I first came on the scene, there wasn't that many people doing MMA breakdowns, but now there is. And so now I can see there's not that many people doing gambling breakdowns. So that's the kind of content I'm moving to. That's the kind of content that gives me a bit of fire at the moment because I know a lot of people need to be educated on that subject. And I feel like in the next 6 to 12 months, a lot of people in this space are probably going to start putting out that type of content as well. They'll be following my lead. And just as what's happened with the MMA breakdowns, everybody's doing it now. I think in 6 to 12 months, we'll see a lot more gambling related content, right? But that remains to be seen. But I'm going to be one of the pioneers of that. So I say all that to say this. That's just a little update on how I'm thinking of things going forward. But I'm not completely going to stop the full card breakdowns. I'm still on the fence, is what I'm saying. Whether I'm going to do them or not, right? I'm still on the fence. And good thing about today is that I feel like doing one today. So I'm going to do one today. So all the PFL fights, I'm going to break them down. I don't know if I'm going to continue doing this in the future, but definitely I'm going to continue doing it today. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first fight of the night. The first fight of the night is an amateur fight. Now, I was extremely surprised to see this. I was especially surprised to see this amateur fight on the card. Like, I don't really know what they're doing. Well, you've got Biagio Ali Walsh versus Tom Gracia. So I've obviously never heard of these guys before. One is 1-1-0 and one is 0-0. So yeah, I don't really know who these guys are. It says they're amateur, but we've got betting odds for them. So, you know, there are certain cases where you get betting odds for amateur fights, but usually you don't. But we are getting betting odds for this fight. Look, one fight is 0-0. There's no footage out there of him. And one fight is 1-1. There's also no footage out there of him. I couldn't find those fights. I have asked one of my colleagues to find these fights for me because I have someone who can find obscure fights. I have 2 people that I know in the team that can secure like fights like this. So I'm hoping that he gets back to me with them. But I can't give you a breakdown on this fight because I know nothing of the fighters. And there's no tape on him. So even if I get back these 2 fights from the guy who's won 1-0, 1-1, right? I'm probably still not even going to bet on it, right? But I will say that one fighter is minus 360, and that's the guy who's 1-1. So if he just looks absolutely horrible, and I do some digging into his opponent, Tom Gracia, and I see some, I don't know, some BJJ footage or some Muay Thai fights that he's had or something, maybe, I'll take a shot on like the plus 300 underdog. But honestly, most likely not going to play this at all. Someone is saying that this is Muhammad Ali's grandson. Brother, I got no idea. If this is Muhammad Ali's grandson, that's absolutely legendary. And actually, you know what? I did hear something about that. Actually, now you say it, I remember hearing something about Muhammad Ali's grandson before. I had no idea that this was the guy. But anyway, I'm not going to spend any time on this fight, obviously, because this is just a ridiculous fight. If anything, you take the underdog because they're both basically terrible. But we'll see what tape tells me. So the second fight, and I'm glad we're doing these 2 fights first because we can get them the fuck out of the way and get onto the actual real fights, right? That we can actually make some confident money on. So the next fight is Dakota Decheva, who's 6-0, and she's fighting Catherine Koroganes, all right, who's 2-0. Now, this Catherine has no fights online that I could find. I could find one fight of hers online. It's not even listed on Tapology. It was like a Muay Thai event where they fought MMA rules. I think it might have only been MMA rules for the first round, but she got a submission in the first round anyway. It's not listed on Tapology or anything. There's absolutely no footage of her online except for that one I could find. And then our opponent, there's a lot of footage of her, and I've watched her, and she looks like a decent fighter. She's 6-0 and she's 4-0 amateur, so she's 10-0 career wide, but she's a minus 400 favorite, and I don't know anything about her opponent. So again, I cannot break this fight down. It is what it is. If I get the fights of Catherine Koroganes, which is she's 2-0, if I get those 2 fights, then maybe I can make a play on this fight. But to be honest, even then, probably not, just because she's only 2-0. She's probably improving, and those fights are against 0-0 girls. So really, I can't come to much conclusion out of that. So who the fuck knows? Moving on. Now we can get into some actual breakdowns, right? So we've got Magamed Kerimov versus Gleison Tibau. So this is actually a good fight. Gleison Tibau, the only man to defeat Khabib Nurmagomedov. So obviously he didn't defeat Khabib Nurmagomedov. I'm only joking there. But he actually was the only man to consistently defend Khabib's takedowns. Maybe Ala Aquinta did it too. I can't remember. I haven't watched that fight in a long time. But Khabib went like 0-10 on takedowns against this guy a long time ago. Gleison Tibau is an absolute beast. He's been in the game for a long, long time. He's had over 50 professional fights. He was in the UFC for like 10 damn years. Literally, I think he was in the UFC for like 10 years. So the guy's an absolute legend, maybe even over 10 years. The guy's a legend. He's fought everybody. He's fought Khabib Nurmagomedov and Islam Makhachev, the only person to fight them both. He's fought everyone. He's fought Michael Johnson. He's fought Trinaldo, Rafael dos Anjos, Jim Miller, Jeremy Stevens. Nick Diaz. The guy's an absolute legend. I'm just looking at his record now. He's gone to the PFL over recent years, and he's actually done pretty well in the PFL. He's 2-2 at the PFL, and he's got one decision win over Rory McDonald, which was a massive win for him because he was like a plus 600 underdog. That was probably one of the robberies of the year. I actually didn't go back and watch that fight for this specific matchup. But I remember when it happened, there was a lot of outcry about it. And I remember taping it for another fight, I think one of Rory's fights. And, he clearly lost that fight, but he got a split decision win. He kind of got his luck turned on him because he fought Jarrah Hussein Al-Salawi last time out. And he lost the split decision there, but I felt like he won that fight, fairly clearly. It was a close fight, though. So, he got his luck taken back a little bit there. But look, basically, he's a solid fighter. He's not bad anywhere. He's good everywhere. He's got a decent chin. His cardio's pretty good. He's got decent wrestling. His wrestling, takedown defense, his defensive wrestling is elite. One of the best in MMA today, honestly. I mean, the guy just doesn't get taken down, I mean, who stuffs Khabib's takedowns? Nobody, right? So he stuffed Khabib's takedowns, and he actually took Khabib down once himself, right? So it was quite a feat back in the day. I think 2016 or something they fought. But even other than that, I mean, no one really takes this guy down consistently. Yeah, you might get him down, but you're not taking him down multiple times, and you probably won't take him down in the whole fight, to be honest. And that's going to be interesting here because obviously his opponent, Magamed Kerimov, he's a takedown artist. He's one of those Dagestanis. He comes from Russia, fighting out of that Makachaka region or whatever it is. Someone going to cut this up and say Makachaka or whatever it is. It's like Machakala or something like that. I don't know. But he's fighting out of that region. And, those guys, they got the shaved head. We're actually, that's what Magamed Kerimov has now. He's actually shaved his head now. So he's looking like a proper Dagestani. Shaved head, big beard, good wrestling, good striking, stay on the outside. The Dagestanis, what they know to do very well is stay on the outside and limit the damage on the feet that they are taking, and then they explode into the takedowns, right? But Magamed Kerimov is actually upgrading his striking game quite a lot recently. We saw that in his last fight against Delano Taylor. So he's basically a takedown artist. That's what he does, right? He takes fighters down. He pressures you, good striking, and he chain wrestles, blast doubles, cage wrestling, single legs, body locks, suplexes. I've seen, the guy has it all in terms of takedowns. But in his last fight, he didn't shoot one takedown. He kept it on the feet with a good striker and ended up knocking him out on the feet. So that was an extremely impressive performance by Magamed Kerimov. Most people going into that fight thought that if he's going to win this fight, he's going to need takedowns, right? Or at least it will be close on the feet. It wasn't really close. Magamed Kerimov kind of just dominated on the feet for most of the fight. And then he knocked the guy out, Delano Taylor, who's actually fighting on this card. We'll get to him later. He knocked him out later in the fight. So he's upgrading his striking game, and his wrestling game's been there, since he started MMA, and it's always going to be there. So in this fight, it's going to be Gleison Tibau defending takedowns like he always does in every fight. No one's able to get him down. I don't really see Magamed Kerimov taking him down. Now, I will say that Kerimov is an extremely high-level grappler, an extremely high-level takedown artist. Of course, he can get takedowns on Gleison Tibau here, but Gleison Tibau is an elite defensive wrestler, like I already told you. So I'm not really convinced Magamed Kerimov is going to take him down. Because also Kerimov is smart. Kerimov might try to take him down, realize that he can't. Tibau is a very strong guy. And then just say, I'm just going to keep it on the feet with him. I think he's going to be winning the feet exchanges. So he probably won't even need to go for the takedowns, right? So if I'm saying that I'm not convinced it's going to go to the ground, then we look at, I'm not convinced that Kerimov's going to take Tibau down, right? So then we look at, is Tibau going to take Kerimov down? Not really. Tibau will go for takedowns. He could get like a reactionary takedown or something, catch Kerimov off guard. But I don't think Kerimov's going to stay down. I don't think Tibau's going to be able to keep him down. Kerimov will stand back up to his feet. And this fight, in my opinion, is going to be primarily a striking fight. So then we look at who's the better striker, who's going to win on the feet. I think Kerimov is clearly the better striker, especially at this point in their career. I mean, Tibau is an old dude now. He's 39 years old. He's going to be 40 on his next birthday, whereas Kerimov is in his prime now, 32 years old. Coming off that loss to Ray Cooper two 2 fights ago. That was for the tournament championship. He lost that fight via knockout in the 3rd round, and he's going to be motivated to win this fight, because this is a big fight for him. This is obviously not the fight to win the tournament. So, he might not be as motivated. I don't know, because it's not for $1 million. But at the end of the day, he always shows up in shape. He's a professional. I think he's going to show up in shape here. Gleison Tibau is a decent fighter to have on your record. I think Magamed Kerimov is going to win the striking exchanges and win the fight. Is he going to win a decision or a knockout? I'm not 100% sure. Tibau's pretty tough, so I expect him to stay there for most of the fight. But as we saw, Kerimov is definitely leveling up his striking game. He's always live for like a guillotine or something like that if he can just jump on the neck of a rocked Tibau, a club and sub maneuver, or even jump on the neck of Tibau when he's going in for a takedown or something like that. Because I do think Tibau will shoot a couple of times here just because he's going to be overwhelmed on the feet. Kerimov is he's way faster. He's got way better kicks. He's even more athletic and that. So I like Magamed Kerimov here. He's minus 400 favorite. So, the line agrees with me and I agree with the line. So I'm going to take Kerimov there. I'm going to take him via decision. But I wouldn't be surprised for it to be inside the distance. The next fight we have is Nathan Schult versus Jeremy Stephens. Now, this is a big fall from grace Jeremy Stephens has had, right? Because obviously he was a mainstay in the UFC, but he lost like 6 in a row in the UFC, and they finally had to cut him. He went to PFL, and he hasn't done well at PFL. He lost his first fight against Clay Collard in a Fight of the Year candidate. That was an amazing fight. Them guys were just going back and forth. Both fighters could have been knocked out in that fight. I'm surprised it made it to decision. Whoever had the under there must have been extremely pissed off, because I would have been if I had the under. But both fighters are very tough, so that's always a what's the word? Like, it's always tough when you're betting on fighters who are tough for the fight to go under or the fight to end inside the distance, because you're kind of banking on their toughness not holding up. And oftentimes that doesn't happen, even in slobber knockers, right? So you have to be careful with betting unders in fights where fighters are extremely tough, even if you think it's going to be a high volume fight. Another one that comes to my mind, and this is a good thing to think of, in terms of, or a good thing to add to your betting philosophy, because it's one of my betting philosophies. When you think of someone like Shane Burgos versus Billy Quarantillo, that fight, before it was announced, instantly, like, the thing that comes to your head is like, okay, under 2.5 rounds, fight ends inside the distance, because both fighters are just insane pace fighters. They're going to walk forward, meet in the middle of the cage, and swing, basically. And that's exactly what they did, right? But it doesn't always end in a finish, especially when fighters are extremely tough, right? And so Billy Quarantillo, Shane Burgos are very tough, and Jeremy Stephens and Clay Collard are very tough. And it actually brings me onto this fight, because Jeremy Stephens, as I said, he's tough, and Nathan Schult is like the epitome of toughness. Nathan Schult is known as the Terminator. He walks forward, he puts his high guard up, and he just basically walks through anything his opponents have, and he doesn't get finished. Nathan Schult, he gets caught clean because of the way he fights, but he doesn't get finished. In his career, he's never been finished by strikes. He got armbarred once. So he's a very, very tough guy. Now, I honestly, when I was watching tape for this, I was like, damn, man, like, this is going to be an absolute brawl. This is going to be a barroom brawl. Maybe I bet the under, but it's extremely hard for me just because I know how tough the fighters are. Now, no matter how tough you are, you will eventually get knocked out. That's just MMA. That's just the way MMA goes. So you don't always avoid betting on tough fights to end inside the distance, but it is something to think about, right? Especially if the price is not great. In this fight, I feel like Jeremy Stephens is going to be the one backing up, which is quite rare for a Jeremy Stephens fight, but it's not rare for a Nathan Schult fight that his opponent's backing up, right? So I do see Nathan Schult, the one who's going to be pushing the pressure here, pushing his opponent back against the cage, not physically in the clinch range, but just with his pressure, just with his forward pressure, his footwork. He's going to be walking forward, and Jeremy Stephens going to be trying to land huge overhands and huge hooks and huge uppercuts, where Nathan Schult's basically going to be not landing the huge shots, but just chipping away at him. Jab, jab, left hook, right hand, jab, jab, left hook, right hand, just pressure, pressure, pressure. And he's going to try and break Jeremy Stephens. Have we seen Jeremy Stephens broken in MMA? Not really, man. We haven't really seen it happen. Obviously, he's been finished before. It was a brutal knockout loss he took to Jose Aldo, but he hasn't really been broken. Even in fights that he seemed like he was going to get broken in, Clay Collard, he didn't. He pushed on. It went to decision. But then again, Clay Collard doesn't even have much finishing upside. But neither does Nathan Schult, because the dude goes to decision with most people, like most people on a decent level anyway. So it's going to be funny to see, or it's going to be interesting to see how this fight plays out, because I do think Nathan Schult is there to be hit. As I said, I do think Jeremy Stephens hits very hard. And I do think that he's probably going to land with a few huge shots in this fight. But we saw Clay Collard take his shots. We saw Miles Price take his shots as like a plus 800 underdog last time out. So I do think that Nathan Schult's going to be able to take his shots. Jeremy Stephens is on the tail end of his career. He's 36 years old. Out of his last 7 fights, I think he's 6-1. And not only that, he went to a split decision as a minus 700 favorite in his last fight, fighting a guy who was 11-8, Miles Price. So he was expected to completely dominate that fight, but it went to split decision. I don't think it was a split. I don't think it should have been a split. I think he won rounds 1 and 2 pretty clearly. But at the end of the day, it was a close fight, especially that last round. He lost it. And the fight in general, the minutes in general were fairly close. So that's a bad look for Jeremy Stephens. I can't get behind a Nathan Schult bet, because Nathan Schult at the moment is actually minus 400, which is kind of ridiculous because his style doesn't really lend itself to ever being minus 400. So there's a few fighters who can warrant minus 400 price tags. That's these fighters who just don't ever get hit, and they're fighting someone who's just not on their level striking. So someone like Ian Gary could probably be 80% against a lot of fighters just because he's got good range control. Even someone like Wonderboy Thompson, not at this point in his career, but at one point he could probably cover minus 400. He could win a fight against someone 8 times out of 10 just because of his range control. Another fighter who can cover minus 400, another style of fighter who can cover 80% is a minus 400 is 80% in implied probability. If those of you don't know that, another style of fighter that can cover that is a grappler, right? So someone like Khabib, someone like Islam Makhachev, if they just continue grappling you, take you down, they could do that 8 times out of 10 if they fight, right? But someone like Nathan Schult, the way he fights, he never really should be a minus 400 favorite, in my opinion, right? It's very rare that I'm going to agree with someone like Nathan Schult being a minus 400 favorite, because basically he's going to walk forward, he's going to put his hands up in the high guard, and he's going to take shots. He might win the fight clearly, but he's going to take shots. And anytime you take a shot, 1, you're risking yourself getting knocked out, and 2, you're taking damage, which can affect you later in the fight, and 3, you're taking damage that affects you on the judges' scorecards, So if you have someone that can just jab you and move around the octagon like Olivier Oubali Mercier did to him, you're always going to be in close fights, even if you deserve to win, right? And obviously in the OAM fight, he didn't deserve to win, but there's certain fights that he's probably been in that have been a lot closer than they should have been just because of his style, right? So in this fight against Jeremy Stephens, he's going to give Jeremy Stephens the ample opportunity to land haymakers on him. I don't think anybody should be fighting in the pocket with Jeremy Stephens, really. If you're talking about the optimal way to win a fight against Jeremy Stephens, it's probably not fighting in the pocket. So for that reason, I definitely can't get behind a Nathan Schult bet. In terms of backing Jeremy Stephens, I know he's a big plus money for underdog, but it's just so hard at this stage of his career. I mean, he's clearly shown a decline. One thing I will say is that it used to be extremely tough, and now he's showing signs of fatigue. He's showing signs of his chin breaking down, in my opinion. I mean, it seemed like he got rocked, not really rocked, but it seemed like he got wobbled a couple times in that Miles Price fight. Like, he didn't react well to getting hit. In that Clay Collard fight, he got wobbled multiple times. I thought he could get finished. And in the 2 fights before that, he got finished by submission, and then Calvin Kattar finished him. So I do think his chin's actually deteriorating a little bit. And if Nathan Schult puts that pressure on, he could finish him, man. So Jeremy Stephens has won one fight in the last 4-5 years. And that fight was against an 11-8 guy, Miles Price, who he went to a split decision with. Someone actually scored it for Miles Price. So, guys, it's very hard for me to be betting Jeremy Stephens at this point in his career, no matter what price he is. But there is a price for everything. So if they give me plus 1,000 on his money line, I probably would take it. But that's where I am, guys. I feel like Nathan Schult is going to be able to do what Clay Collard did. Get in the pocket, win the pocket exchanges, be more durable, and out cardio Jeremy Stephens. Very similar to Clay Collard. I think Nathan Schult is actually quite good in that pocket boxing range. He isn't as fast as Clay Collard, but he will shoot like 1-2 shovel, shovel uppercut, screw shot, hook, like fast combos in boxing range, and then keep pressuring. So look, Jeremy Stephens is live for the knockout in this fight more than he has been recently, just because of the way Nathan Schult fights. But I do expect Nathan Schult to win. I do expect Nathan Schult to break him at a point. Now, if that breaking is going to lead itself to a finish, I don't really know. But yeah, I'm definitely taking Nathan Schult for the win here. Next fight we have is Moraes versus Marlon Moraes. Now, Marlon Moraes actually was scheduled to fight Shane Burgos. But Shane Burgos got injured, so he had to pull out of that fight. And so I haven't actually done tape for this fight. I began tape for the Burgos fight. That was actually a while back because I wanted to do early tape. I just wanted to see a few things. Was going to probably back Burgos KO there just because of, Moraes' chin seems completely gone at this point. So I can't talk too much about this matchup. But we got the Moraes versus the Moraes. You just have to start any Marlon Moraes breakdown by saying that his chin looks completely gone. I really do think his chin is gone. I think that he's probably going to succumb to another knockout here. He's obviously live to get a knockout in the first round in any fight against anyone he fights, even Peter Yan, even who else? Aljamain Sterling, I already did that. Who else is like bantamweight elite? Sean O'Malley now. Yeah, he's obviously live to get a knockout against anyone, but I don't see it happening here. Although I haven't taped Shayman Moraes' side, as I've just told you. So we're going to kick back. We're not going to speak too much about the Shayman Moraes side. But yeah, on the Magic Marlon Moraes side, no chin at this point. Coming off 4 losses. I think he retired at one point as well, and now he's coming back to fight in PFL. Just extreme red flags for me here. Also, there's no odds out for this fight yet, so I haven't been super, rushing to tape it. But we'll see when the odds come out. We'll see if there's any angle that I want to play. I obviously would be looking at an under of some sort, maybe even the 1.5. I reckon they'll set it at 1.5. Bookies are pretty smart. So I do think they'll set it at under 1.5, which is where it should be set at. And I'll probably back the under in some capacity if the line is good enough. Like if they give me an evens on the under 1.5, I probably will take it. But yeah, I'm going to need to take the Shayman Moraes side and, fully confirm my thoughts there. So the next fight we have is PFL. We got Oubali Akhmedov versus Rob Wilkinson. Now, this is the first fight of the night that happens to be a tournament championship fight, right? So these guys are fighting to be PFL champion. These guys are fighting for the $1 million. Now, shout out to Oubali Akhmedov because, Oubali Akhmedov was out there in the UFC fighting hard fights. Like I remember his fight against Chris Weidman. He almost got finished in the 3rd round. It was extremely tough. Then he fought Brad Tavares, another extremely tough fight. They just slugged it out for 3 rounds, came down to a split decision. He was fighting tough fights, right? And then he went to PFL, got knocked out in his PFL debut by Jordan Young. Rest in peace, Jordan Young. But after that, since that fight, and by the way, he was a -600 favorite in that fight. So that was an easy fight on paper. And then since then, the guy's had, layups apart from his last fight, really. He fought Victor Pesta, who was actually an underdog in that fight. And I actually bet against him, which was an embarrassing bet when I look back at it, a very square bet. The reason I did that is because I saw him get knocked out in his first fight ever at light heavyweight. And so I thought that, his light heavyweight chin just wasn't there because this guy used to fight a welterweight. I know he's a big guy, but we have to remember he used to fight a welterweight. Then he fought a middleweight. Then he moved up to light heavyweight and he got brutally knocked out as a -700 favorite. So I thought, damn, Oubali Akhmedov he can't take a shot at light heavyweight. Not, obviously, there was a few other things I saw, but in general, I thought this Victor Pesta dude looks like he hits hard. Maybe he's going to knock him out. That was a bad bet for me because he got knocked out early. Oubali Akhmedov showed that he deserves to be at least at this level of competition, even at light heavyweight. Then he got that Teodoros Oskatulis, whatever that guy's name is. He's not a good fighter. Minus 600, managed to choke him out. And then he got an actual hard fight in PFL, right? Well, on paper, he fought Josh Silveira, who's a decent fighter, 9-0. It was a fairly close fight. I mean, no one ran away from it, but he won. And he actually handed Josh his first loss of his career. So, look, he's proven that he can fight at light heavyweight. I still don't trust Omari in general as a person. I still think his cardio is bad, and I still think he can start to wilt at times, especially up at light heavyweight. You know, the guys hit harder there. He's fighting Rob Wilkinson in this fight. And the thing about Rob Wilkinson is he looks extremely tough, but he used to fight in the UFC. Lost both his UFC fights, kind of brutally. Got knocked out both times. One was against Israel Adesanya, so we can't take too much from that. But the other was against Siyar Badahu Dazra. I don't know. Some dude that used to fight in the UFC, but he doesn't fight in the UFC anymore. Didn't stay in the UFC for that long. Or to be honest, he stayed in the UFC for quite long. I'm just looking at his record now. Yeah, so he had like 7 fights in the UFC, so that was quite a lot. But yeah, I think he retired like a few years ago. Anyway, he lost both fights in the UFC. Rob Wilkinson did, which is Oubali Akhmedov's opponent. And he didn't look good in those fights, but that was at middleweight, right? He's actually moved up to light heavyweight now. And honestly, he looks like a completely different man. He's definitely been eating his vegetables. He's been eating his broccoli. He's on some very, very good vitamins. You could just see the body transformation. It's not just about moving up to light heavyweight. He hasn't just gained 15 pounds from middleweight to light heavyweight, gained 20 pounds, and like now he's got tons of muscle. It looks like he's got more muscle, but he's leaner at light heavyweight. So he's 20 pounds heavier, but leaner. So, I mean, the guy's taking his vitamins. He's an absolute monster. He hits like an absolute truck. He's a wrecking ball. He comes forward heavy in that first round and tries to put you away. He will engage in a pocket in a brawl. He's got a decent chin, it seems like, on these vitamins he's on, and up at light heavyweight. It seems like his chin's better than what it used to be down at middleweight. From what I've seen, he just looks like a different fighter, man. He's got way more confidence than he used to have at middleweight. He's got way more power. As I said, he's way bigger. He's filled out the 205 frame, extremely well. And he's a tough motherfucker to deal with, you know. He's only lost 2 fights, and they was both in the UFC back when he was at middleweight. This is a hard fight for Oubali Akhmedov, man, because Rob Wilkinson's going to come forward like an absolute truck and try and get him out there early. And we know Oubali Akhmedov, he can be hurt. You know, he's been dropped multiple times. I remember he got dropped against Brad Tavares. I think it was someone else dropped him. I can't remember who, but he's been knocked out twice. That was in the 3rd round because he got tired. And you have to remember, this is a 5-round fight. So Oubali Akhmedov, and someone's saying it in the chat actually, Omari in 5 rounds, and laughing face, because Omari is not built to go 5 rounds. He gets tired in almost every 3-round fight. So I don't see him going 5 rounds here. But what I will say is that Rob Wilkinson's cardio is also unknown. So we have to take that into account, because he got knocked out in round 2 in his only 2 losses, right, against Adesanya and Sayar in the UFC. And since then, he has never gone past the 6-minute mark in MMA. Ever. He's got all his finishes in round 1, except for one fight, which went into the 46th second of round 2. So we don't know how this guy's cardio is going to hold up after 2 rounds. We actually don't know how his cardio is going to hold up after 6 minutes. And by the way, as I said, the dude is 20 pounds heavier, but leaner than he used to be at 185. He's on a lot of vitamins, and he fights like a tornado early. All that tells me is that he's probably not going to have great cardio. Now, do I know? No. Can I be guaranteed he doesn't have good cardio? No. But just the way he's built, just from my experience betting on MMA, I'm going to lean more on the side that he actually doesn't have 5-round cardio here. Now, we know for a fact that Omari doesn't, though. So that's where it gets tricky. Who's going to be more gassy? We don't really know. We know for a fact Omari is going to gas. During round 3, Omari will start gassing. Doesn't mean he's going to get finished. Doesn't mean he can't go 5 rounds. But we know he's going to gas. On the other hand, we don't know if Wilkinson's going to gas, but we believe he probably will. But we don't know, right? So it's tough, man. The cardio dynamic is tough in this fight. I do think that Omari is going to be in trouble early, or at least in danger early. Because as I said, Wilkinson comes out like a bat out of hell, and he tries to finish anyone in the first round. The striking, I feel like Rob Wilkinson's a better striker. I actually do. But Omari has fought the much better strikers. So Omari's been in there with loads of fighters in the UFC. I know Rob Wilkinson's been in there with Adesanya, but I mean, that's like his lone good fighter that he's fought, honestly. Omari's fought like 5 to 10 really good fighters in his career, through welterweight to middleweight. So Omari's got the clear experience advantage and the clear level of competition advantage. So it's hard to get a true read on their striking, because in my opinion, technically, it looks like Rob Wilkinson's better. But he's been fighting cans compared to Omari. So his striking might look better. It might not actually be better when they face off in the octagon, just because Omari's been fighting better competition. His striking looks a little bit worse. Omari's not very good technically as a striker. Like, he doesn't look that good, but he's quite effective, and he's actually decent at keeping out of harm's way. We don't just see him constantly get caught clean. This is a tough one for me, man. I feel like I should be backing Oubali Akhmedov here, just because we got the concerns for Rob Wilkinson's cardio. We know Omari's got poor cardio, but we've got concerns on the Wilkinson side. So it's not like I want to back Omari against someone who's a clear cardio machine. Then I wouldn't be doing it. But what I'm saying is, it's only a bonus that Rob Wilkinson's cardio is a question mark. It's not a negative if you want to back against Rob Wilkinson, right? And then the striking, in my opinion, is going to be fairly close, especially once Omari gets some time. The first 2 minutes, I think it's going to be dangerous. But after that, I think it's going to be close. And then the grappling, again, is pretty close. I mean, Rob Wilkinson has decent takedowns, but Omari has great takedowns. And Omari's been in there with the much better wrestlers. He took down Chris Weidman many, many times. He's taken down everyone he's ever fought, really. And Rob Wilkinson has never fought a wrestler like Omari before. So, but I do think Rob Wilkinson can also get takedowns, right? So I feel like the striking could be the same. It could be a wash. The grappling could be a wash. And the cardio has the potential to be a wash. But the level of competition is way higher for Oubali Akhmedov. The experience is way more for Oubali Akhmedov. I mean, Oubali Akhmedov is a veteran of over 30 fights. Rob Wilkinson, he's 16-2. He's had 18 fights. Omari has double the fights of Rob Wilkinson here. So I feel like, as I said, almost everything is a wash in this fight, except for the level of competition and the danger factor. I think Rob Wilkinson is much more dangerous. I think he's much more live for a finish. I think if the finish comes from Omari, it's going to be second and third round, whereas I think Rob Wilkinson can finish any round. But the thing is, Rob Wilkinson is minus 200 right now. So I'm leaning Oubali Akhmedov here. Even for a pure pick, I'm leaning Omari. And then for a bet, I'm obviously leaning Omari. So yeah, man, I'm going to go with Oubali Akhmedov here. But this is a big, big question mark fight. I don't know if I'm going to bet it yet, just because do I really want to risk my money on Oubali Akhmedov in a fight where he has to go 5 rounds if he doesn't get a finish? The dude hardly finishes anyway. And so if Rob Wilkinson doesn't slow down, then I don't know if I want my money on someone who has to go 5 rounds, who's never, ever shown cardio to go 5 rounds before. But the big caveat, the big elephant in the room there is that Rob Wilkinson hasn't shown that either, right? So we'll see how it goes. I'll pick Oubali Akhmedov for the win here. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go on Twitter, and I'm just going to post that I'm live. So if anybody watching now has Twitter, probably most of you see me from Twitter. If you do, follow my Twitter. If you don't, follow my Twitter. And just retweet my tweet now, because we got 40 live viewers in here now, which is pretty solid. Considering I haven't done many streams lately as well. The engagement always goes down loads when you're not that active on YouTube. And because I haven't been doing these fight breakdowns too much, I did one the other week, but I haven't been doing them. The engagement goes down. So to see 40 man in here, I really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. I'm just going to do a little tweet letting everybody know we're on to the last 5 fights. And there's some good ones coming up now. Just about to break down. Tournament champions, come on, lock in. Yeah. All right, so I've just tweeted that out now. So hopefully we get some more people in here. I'll just address the chat now because Alexander Velikanov has posted quite a lot. And thanks for being in here, bro. I don't think I've seen you in here before, so shout out to you. So he's saying, what proof is there of Wilkinson's takedown defense, BJJ get-ups, light heavyweight or not? Moraes fantastic wrestling. I mean, he took down Chris Weidman, multiple times. So there is some proof of Rob Wilkinson's takedown defense. Actually, he's quite strong. We saw in that Dylan Monte fight, Monte had him in a clinch a couple times, and, he was very strong in that clinch. I think Bruce Soto took him down once, but he instantly got straight back up. It was either a scramble or some form of takedown. But he got straight back up straight away. So he showed his strength there. Victor Pesta shot a takedown on him. I think it was actually Victor Pesta. It was either Victor Pesta or Bruno Sutter. Victor Pesta definitely shot a takedown on him. And he stuffed the takedown pretty well. But yeah, it's not proven at a high level. We have seen some of it. It is on tape, but yeah, it's not proven at a high level at all. So yeah, I agree there. He's saying Amari should not mess around too much on the feet, but Rob is ripe for that overhand. Yeah, he will. I don't know if he will be terrified of the takedown. I mean, that's yet to be seen. Amari can certainly land that. Yeah, he definitely can. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Rob doesn't really justify such a steep price tag for the reasons I mentioned. I do agree with you. I don't think he should be minus 200 here. Yeah, so we will carry on now. The next fight we have is Stevie Ray versus... No, we don't. The next fight we have is Delano Taylor versus Sadibou Sy. This is a good fight. Sadibou Sy has been kind of like a money train for me because he was a little bit underrated about 4 fights ago because his record was like 8-6, or it was like 9-5, and it's not a good record when you're fighting people like Magamed Karamov, who's like 30-5, But he's actually proved a lot of doubters wrong, and he's actually proved me right and won me a lot of money. I always back the overs in his fights because he's very good at taking no damage and also not giving out that much, or at least not fight-ending damage. So I've been backing the overs in his fights for many years now, or at least for the last 2 years. And I've also been backing his money line every now and then, or him by decision. I remember I cashed him as a decision. Massive decision. It was like plus 350 or something against Nikolai Alexarkin in there. So shout out for him winning that decision for me there. But yeah, I like Sadibou Sy. He's a very good fighter. He's extremely long. He's extremely tall for the weight class. He's 6'3" with an 80-inch reach. So, I mean, that's an insane reach, 80-inch reach. He usually towers over his opponents, and he definitely has a longer reach than most of his opponents. He's from Sweden, massive tall guy. He's going to throw that left body kick is absolutely beautiful. That's his money shot. His left body kick is his money shot. He loves it. Another great shot of his is the left high kick. So any left kick is extremely fast. He whips it in. The sound it makes is like a baseball bat hitting a wall. It's extremely fast. He doesn't load up at all. It's non-telegraphic. And he hurts a lot of people like that. He actually got a knockout in one PFL fight like that. Other than that, he's got a good jab. He'll double up on the jab, triple up on the jab, quadruple up on the jab. I saw him land 8 jabs in a row against Carlos Leal. Most of them actually didn't land, but he threw 8 jabs in a row against Carlos Leal in his last fight and finished up with a right hand. Actually, he plays southpaw, so I think he was switch stance at that point. But so it was... No. He was in southpaw when he did that, and it was like 8 jabs with the right hand and came back with the left straight. Look, he's a good fighter. He's good at judging range. He's very, very good at judging range. He doesn't fight well under pressure, though. So let me rephrase that. He fights very well under pressure, but his weakness is fighting under pressure, right? So let's say Islam Makhachev's weakness is striking, but he's a very good striker, right? What else could we say? I don't need to say it. It proves it right there, right? Your weakness can be the same thing you're good at, because these guys are professional fighters. They're the best fighters in the entire world, right? So yes, Sadibou Sy's weakness is fighting under pressure, but he's actually quite good at it. And one of the reasons is why he's quite good at it is because everybody tries to pressure him. So he has so much training, or at least live fight experience, fighting under pressure. I feel like his opponent, Delano Taylor, is going to need to pressure him here. But honestly, I've watched a lot of Delano Taylor footage, man. And the dude does not pressure. He just doesn't do it. He likes to fight on the outside, a slow, tepid kickboxing fight, and every now and then throw huge hands. So I don't really think this is a good fight for Delano Taylor stylistically. It's funny, though, because I feel like Delano Taylor is a very talented guy. And he's only young, man. He's only 25 years old. He's very, very young. So he's getting better and better. Sadibou Sy is 35 years old. So we've got a 10-year age disadvantage, if you want to call it that, for Sadibou Sy. Sadibou Sy is 10 years older than him. And what do we see in MMA? When there's a 10-year age difference, 7 times out of 10, whatever it is, it's around that. It's around the 70%. The younger fighter wins. But I don't think the younger fighter wins here. I do like Delano Taylor. He is a good fighter. He's a BJJ brown belt. So if he can get Sadibou Sy down, he'll probably win the fight, because Sadibou Sy is a kickboxer by trade. He's not very good on the feet. He's not very good on the ground. Sorry. And so if he does get taken down, the round probably is over, and Delano Taylor can probably land some big ground and pound, or if not, get a submission. I will say Sadibou Sy is definitely cleaning up that part of his game. I played Sadibou Sy over 1.5 rounds in a Magamed Karamov fight because I knew that even if he got taken down, he's probably going to be able to survive on bottom. Just because I saw his improvements in his BJJ. He showed extreme improvements in his BJJ. Because, back in the day, he was getting finished from top position. I remember when he fought Glyco Franca. He got finished from top position, ground and pound there. Magomedov, he got hurt from top position. Ray Cooper took him down and dominated him from top position. But, in the last 2-3 years, he's really improved his takedown defense and also improved his ground defense. When he's actually on the ground, he's improved it. So I do like Sadibou Sy as a fighter. I think he's very good. I actually like Delano Taylor as a prospect. I think he's very good. I think it might be a bit too soon for him, though. I don't know whether he's shown me. I don't think he's shown me the intelligence to fight the game plan needed to beat Sadibou Sy. Not saying he can't do it. I feel like he may have the skills to do it. Something else that comes to my mind when I think about this fight is the cardio. Sadibou Sy has shown good cardio, but he has tired in third rounds before. Actually, many times. He tired in that Carlos Leal fight badly, but he won the third round. But he did tire in that fight. But Carlos Leal was pushing an insane pace. He also tired in a Glyco Franca fight. He got finished in that fight. He does get tired, On the other hand, I haven't seen Delano Taylor get tired. Not to the extent Sadibou Sy has. But the caveat to that one, unfortunately, there has to be a caveat, is that I haven't seen Delano Taylor face the type of adversity or be in the type of high-paced matchups that Sadibou Sy has been in. So I don't really know what to say about their cardio. Look, I think Sadibou Sy is probably going to win this fight. I think he's the deserved favorite. I think he probably wins it by decision, although this is a 5-round fight. So you also have to be, a little bit extra careful when you're backing a fight to go to decision, or when you're picking a fight to go to decision if it's 5 rounds, because we know a lot of people can't stomach those 4th and 5th rounds. Those are the championship rounds for a reason. So yeah, man, look, I won't speak about this fight too much more. I'm going to take Sadibou Sy for the win. But it's a good fight, man. I do actually like Delano Taylor as a prospect. I actually probably would be on Delano Taylor if I hadn't seen him get completely dominated by Magamed Karamov in his last fight on the feet, solely on the feet. I actually was looking at Delano Taylor's footage and I didn't watch the Karimov fight straight away. I watched all of his other fights. Reason being is because I know Karimov is a really good grappler and I thought that he would be grappling Delano Taylor. And so I was watching the tape of Delano Taylor and I was like, damn, man, this guy's like, he's a decent fighter. He could pose some obstacles for Sadibou Sy. Then I watched the Karimov fight, right? And he got knocked out bad and he basically lost he lost every minute of that fight, and it was on the feet for like 8 minutes. So 8 minutes of footage, that's like half a fight of footage on the feet versus Karimov, who's, comparable to Sadibou Sy on the feet in terms of he's long, he throws a lot of kicks, he'll stay out of range, if you look at Delano Taylor's record, there's no one that really emulates Sadibou Sy, but Karimov is probably the closest. You could maybe say Feraldo, but he's more of a boxer, and that was early on. And other than that, this Marquez Edwards guy, but he's just a tank who throws spinning kicks and stuff. He's not really a Sadibou Sy guy. So Karimov is kind of one of the closest we'll get to a Sadibou Sy stylistic matchup for Delano Taylor, and he just got completely owned in that fight. So after I saw that, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to be on Delano Taylor at all. Not that I was going to be on him anyway, but it just basically pushed me off him. So yeah, the next fight we have. So I'm going to go with Sadibou Sy, man. I don't want to speak too much more about that fight. Sadibou Sy to win the fight. The next fight we have is Stevie Ray versus Olivier Oubali Mercier. Good fight. I think Olivier Oubali Mercier is going to win. He'll probably cover his price tag. He's minus 400. It's a bit tricky when you get to minus 400 range, but I do think he is probably going to, win the fight clearly 30-27 or something. He's got good power. I know he doesn't have a lot of knockouts, but he has a decent amount of knockdowns. He knocked down, who did he fight last time out? I can't remember, but he knocked him down twice. He's just a really, really good fighter, man. I really like Olivier Oubali Mercier, man. I got a bit of a soft spot for him, He lost his last 3 fights in the UFC and got cut, but in my opinion, he shouldn't have got cut. I mean, he definitely deserves to be there. I mean, he's a high level fighter, man. He's probably top 20. He's probably like top 20 lightweight in the world, man. Maybe top 25. He's a really, really good fighter, man. He stays on the outside. He's got good power. He's got great jiu-jitsu, good takedown defense. He's got really, really good range control, and he's an extremely smart fighter, and he's got his own takedown upside. So he's a really good fighter all around. Stevie Ray, probably a little bit, I'm not going to say overvalued at all because he's like plus 300. But what I will say is that his last 2 fights was against Anthony Pettis. He won both of them, but Pettis is completely washed at this point in his career. So I don't take too much from that. Shout out to Stevie Ray for doing it, but I honestly don't. Yeah, I don't think that was, a great showing just because I do think Anthony Pettis is done. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this fight, because I do think Olivier Oubali Mercier is going to probably outclass him. I think he's a level above. I think he'll keep it on the feet. At times it might be close, but he'll be able to stop the takedowns, and I think he's going to win this fight. The next fight is Julia Budd versus Aspen Ladd. Guys, I don't have much to say about this fight. Aspen Ladd is coming in off a couple poor performances in the UFC, a terrible performance against Norma Dumont, and then a bad performance against Raquel Pennington, which she didn't come alive till round 3. She got outlanded like 120-65 or something crazy in that Raquel Pennington fight. She's a minus 250 favorite, and I don't really agree with it. I'm not going to back Julia Budd probably because Julia Budd's like 40 years old. She's 39 years old, and but Aspen Ladd at minus 230 is just stupid. Like, the striking is probably close. Like, Julia Budd can definitely win a striking fight here. And then the grappling, yeah, she could probably take Julia Budd down, but Julia Budd can probably take her down as well. Julia Budd's got more experience. I mean, I don't know, man. If you're backing Aspen Ladd at minus 250, you're a bit mad. I mean, Aspen Ladd may come out there and get one of her vintage performances because we know she's talented deep down somewhere. We saw what she did to Sajara Eubanks, but, there was Tonya Evans just dominated her, but she ain't a good fighter. To be honest, I feel like her top game is really good, but other than that, she's kind of shit. So honestly, man, Julia Budd's price keep blowing out. I'll probably take a poke on Julia Budd just because I just don't agree with Aspen Ladd being minus 230 against almost anyone in MMA. And Julia Budd has fought at a good level most of her career without being in the UFC. So nothing to say about this fight, guys, except for Aspen Ladd shouldn't really be minus 220 against anyone. The next fight we have is Ante Delija versus Matthias Scheffel. Now, Ante Delija is coming off a first round finish of Renan Ferreira, which was actually a great win for him because, Ferreira is meant to be this, futuristic champion or future champion, and just took him down and smashed him on the ground there. So that was a good win for him, and he's been doing well, well in his recent career. The only person to beat him recently has been Bruno Capelloza. Bruno hitched like a truck, and ironically, Matteo Scheffel, his opponent, actually beat Bruno Capelloza, which I still can't believe that happened. That was that crazy event where Scheffel ended up beating Capelloza and Klidson Abreu ended up beating Ferreira. I thought both were going to get knocked out clean within the first minute or two, and they both ended up winning the decision. So yeah, this is another fight where I just feel like the favorite is warranted. We actually saw these guys fight once before. It wasn't on the Contender Series. No, Scheffel did fight on the Contender Series against Murzakanov. But yeah, these guys fought before in the PFL, and Ante Delija got a knockout in round 2. He also knocked him down in round 1 and dominated him in the wrestling. Well, didn't dominate in the wrestling, but he took him down more. He took him down a couple of times. It might have been once. He knocked him down in round 1 and knocked him out in round 2. I don't think Scheffel has a good chin, despite what happened in the Capelloza fight. I think Scheffel has a bad chin. I think Delija has the striking upside, probably. And I think Delija has the wrestling upside. I think Delija's definitely going to win this fight. Anti-Delija for the win and probably a knockout again. The next fight we have is Brendan Loughnane versus Bubba Jenkins. This is a good fight. This is a really, really good fight. I'm really excited for this one. Probably a little bit more excited just because we got Brendan Loughnane who's fighting from England, Manchester. So I always support my England boys a little bit more, or a little bit more excited for this fight, should we say. This is a good fight because Brendan Loughnane showed he's got good cardio. He's shown he can fight, a high-paced fight. He does get tired, though, in a lot of those high-paced fights. He always shows visible signs of tiredness. And he always shows visible signs of wear as well, because he's always got his nose bleeding or his eye cut open or something, which doesn't look good to the judges. But he's basically shown he can be in there with, some of the best in the world. He fought Modliv Kovalaev, got absolutely dominated in that fight. But other than that, he's never been dominated in his career. He fought on the Contender Series, and everyone was saying that he should have been signed because he beat Bill Algeo, but they didn't sign him. He's knocked out Shima Moraes, beat Chris Wade as a big plus 200 underdog in his last fight. He's a good fighter. He's got good takedown defense. He's got good cage wrestling in terms of defensive cage wrestling, circle out, push you away. In this fight, I feel like Bubba Jenkins is obviously going to be doing what he does in every fight, which is shoot for the takedowns. Is he going to be able to get the takedowns? I think he will. You would probably say no, because MMA math, right, would tell you no, because Bubba Jenkins fought Chris Wade and got cleanly out-grappled, out-wrestled by Chris Wade, which was actually a big shock to a lot of people, especially in the wrestling community at the time, because Bubba Jenkins was thought to have an MMA wrestling advantage over Chris Wade, but it didn't happen in the MMA wrestling. Chris Wade dominated him in the wrestling, And then Chris Wade took on Brendan Loughnane and couldn't get him down. I think he took him down once, but Brendan Loughnane kicked him off and got back up to his feet. And every other wrestling transition Brendan Loughnane got the better of, was able to circle away and do damage on the feet. So Chris Wade dominated Bubba Jenkins in the wrestling. Chris Wade couldn't get Brendan Loughnane down. So that tells you that Bubba Jenkins shouldn't really be able to get Brendan Loughnane down. We do know that MMA math doesn't work, though, but we do know that MMA math helps you in certain situations like this, right? But I'm actually going to go contrary to this, and I do think that Bubba Jenkins' style, MMA-style wrestling, is going to give Brendan Loughnane more problems than Chris Wade did. Chris Wade was going for a lot of single legs. I think Bubba Jenkins does his best work on the double leg, and I think he's a bit stronger than Chris Wade in those positions. Now, he may not be as slick, and he may not be as fast in the scrambling, and he may not be as good as in the transitions and beating his opponent to the next position as Chris Wade. But in terms of pure physicality and strength, I do think he's better than Chris Wade at that. So for that reason, I do think he's going to have multiple opportunities to take Brendan Loughnane down here, more than Chris Wade did. Look, I really think that Brendan Loughnane has a good advantage on the feet. I think he's going to be more than prepared for this fight because he's fought many wrestlers in the PFL now. Tyler Diamond, Movlik Kovalaev, Chris Wade. But I just have a feeling that Bubba Jenkins is going to be able to get the takedowns here. But he's going to lose on the feet. So I think it's going to be a close fight. In terms of the line, I think it should be more close to a pick'em. But Brendan Loughnane has the upside because of what he showed in the Chris Wade fight was maybe a little bit of a level up in his defensive grappling, potentially. And then Bubba Jenkins obviously fought decent recently, but, had a poor showing to Chris Wade. So look, this is a tough fight because this is a 5-round fight. So that gives some other... Yeah, that gives some another dynamic to the fight because, to my knowledge, I don't think any of them have gone 5 rounds before. I think both of them get tired, so I don't really know who I give the cardio advantage to. I'm just trying to look on their record, see if anyone's been 5 rounds before. I've never seen it, so I don't think they have. Yeah, so I might be wrong, but as I can see, I don't really think any of them have gone 5 rounds before. So I don't know who's going to have the better cardio. We've got a few people in the chat shouting out now, so I really appreciate that. Alex is saying, Wade is a brilliant anti-grappler, but offense has never been as good, though. Yeah, exactly. Danny P saying, I taped a look at Brendan, but his takedown defense looks a bit off. Not the best control from Bubba. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm leaving at the moment. Bubba cardio isn't great for 5 rounds. Yeah, exactly. But I don't know if Brendan Loughnane's cardio is great for 5 rounds either. The one thing I will say is that I think Brendan Loughnane, I think his cardio, I think he fights through cardio better than Bubba, maybe, from what I've seen. I'm not going to say his cardio is better. I don't really know if he's got better cardio, but I think he fights through it better. We saw in the Bill Algeo fight, we saw in a Tyler Dimer fight that he got really, really gassed out in those fights. But he still arguably won round 3, So that was pretty solid showing from Brendan Loughnane there. So look, I'm actually gonna take Bubba Jenkins for the upset here. I know we have questions on his cardio, but I also don't think Brendan Loughnane's cardio is that great either. Bubba's an underdog here. If he keeps getting bet out because the price is actually moving to Brendan Loughnane, I'll probably take a shot on Bubba Jenkins. I just want to take the guy who, in my opinion, has the grappling ups. I want to take the guy who definitely has the grappling upside, who probably will win the early rounds if he fights smart. And I feel like Brendan Loughnane. I feel like if Bubba Jenkins fights smart, then Brendan Loughnane is going to have to come back to win the fight. So I'll take the guy as an underdog who is going to win the early portion of the fight. Let's just put it that way. The next fight we have is the main event: Kayla Harrison versus Larissa Pacheco. Look, we've seen this fight twice already. I'm not going to say too much about this fight. Someone at the start of the chat, let me just scroll up. Shout out to JD. He says, "What's up, brother? Are you ready to see Larissa shock the world?" No, I'm not ready, and neither is Larissa because she's not winning this fight. She's KO or bust here. I mean, we've seen this fight 5, 6, 7, 8. We've seen 8 rounds of Kayla Harrison versus Larissa Pacheco. We don't need to see any more. They just have to make it just because... they have to make the fight just because Kayla Harrison and Larissa Pacheco both won all their fights during the tournament, so they have to make this fight. But this fight's going to be exactly the same as we've seen before. Will Kayla Harrison get the finish this time? Maybe. She almost got the finish multiple times in both their fights. But Pacheco is a motherfucker on the ground in terms of defensive jiu-jitsu. She's very smart. She knows how to stop damage. I will say that both of these fights have gone to decision, and currently goes to decision is priced at like plus 200 or something. So you know where my money's going to go. I'm going to probably have to play a little bit of that. But it's 5 rounds. So what I would do if I was you is just wait till the overs come out. The over 2.5 rounds, the over 3.5 rounds, over 1.5, over 4.5. Try and get those alternate odds, alternate prop bets, which you will be able to get from multiple bookies, especially because this is PFL's biggest event of the year. More bookies will have those alternate totals. I would suggest, looking at those, because we did see in that 5-round fight that in the 4th round, I think she was close to finishing. In the 5th round, Pacheco actually done pretty well. But yeah, I think I'm probably going to take Kayla Harrison to win this one. The takedowns are going to look just to break it down stylistically for those of you who haven't watched the first two fights. Kayla Harrison can get takedowns whenever she wants. She's taken Pacheco down probably like 10 times over the two fights now. Very, very easily she gets the takedowns. Pacheco almost never stuffed one of Kayla Harrison's takedowns. She did a couple of times. She sprawled a couple of times, but she basically never did it. Kayla Harrison is so much stronger than Pacheco. It isn't funny. And actually in the striking, she minimizes damage extremely well, and she actually lands some strikes on her own. So Larissa Pacheco has a puncher's chance in this fight. And yeah, I mean, this is what Grateful Do is saying. Pacheco only with a puncher's chance. That's all she has. Maybe she finishes with a punch. She's done it many, many times in her career. She's done it in her last 4 fights. She's got 4 first-round finishes. She's not getting it here. Kayla Harrison is not losing. Kayla Harrison's going to win this fight. It could be inside the distance. It could be by decision. I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. Kayla doesn't know. Pacheco doesn't know. We will see this weekend. So I'm taking Kayla Harrison for the win. I'll take her by decision again. So that's it, guys. I broke down all the fights on this card except for the 2 first stupid fights. Yeah, thanks everybody for being here. As always, I'm going to lock in my bets, my official bets. If you want all of my official bets for this card and all of the cards upcoming to the end of the year, you can sign up with me at lucrativemmabetting.com. Just click the links below if you want to sign up. Not much more to say, though. As I said, I'm still on the fence between if I want to do these breakdowns or not. Continue to do these full card breakdowns. I do enjoy them every now and then, but they are also getting a little bit oversaturated and they are getting a little bit boring for me. But I really enjoy interacting with everyone in the chat, interacting with you guys on Twitter, and that's why I'm doing it here. The comments I got on my last YouTube video really swayed me to make this video because I was done. I didn't want to make any more YouTube videos, any breakdown videos, really. I wasn't really feeling it. But I saw like 20, 25 comments on my last YouTube video. Everyone saying, please continue doing the breakdowns and stuff. So I was reading those and I was like, you know what? I'm going to carry on. At least I'll do one more. So I don't know where I'm going to go with this, but there's definitely going to be more gambling content. I'm not going at all, but in terms of the full card breakdowns, who knows? I did put out some gambling content about a week ago, where I basically told you guys the ins and outs of how to be a professional sports bettor. I mean, I just answer questions in the chat, but there were some good questions there. People asked me how to stop being limited by the bookies or how to avoid your accounts being restricted by the bookies. I answered that question along with a bunch of other questions. So go and watch that. I can't remember what the live stream was. It was something like how to be a professional sports bettor or something like that. So go and watch that content. They'll be out there with a lot more content. A lot of people know how to break down a fight, but I think the most important thing in this game is actually know how to be a sports bettor, not how to break down a fight. So I will be back next week, probably, maybe later on the week if I have some content to put out. But for now, I'll see you on the next video. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you want me to continue doing these breakdowns, and good luck on your bets this weekend. I hope